What U.S. Customs and Border Patrol asked one New Jersey mayor who flew into JFK Airport with his family in New York last month. Mohamed Khairullah says he was detained and questioned for hours by CBP officers after returning home from an overseas trip. Khairullah is a longtime U.S. politician and a public school administrator for the city of Prospect Park, and he joins us now to tell his story. Mohamed, we really appreciate you being with us. Could you just start by walking us through what happened when you got off the plane and a bit about the nature of your trip? I understand that you were on a family vacation with your family in Turkey, visiting some Syrian relatives.
Correct. Thank you. Good evening to you and to the audience. We were in the back of the plane as we have purchased our ticket last minute due to confusion. Now, when we left the airplane, there were Customs and Border Patrol officers asking for everybody to open their passports and green card. And as soon as they opened our documents, they told us that they want us to come with them. So obviously we obliged and we started walking. And during the walk, the agent, I guess the head agent, there were two agents, was making light of the situation and saying this way you could skip the long lines, and this shouldn't take long, and we're just going to ask you a few questions. So we went in. I got my family situated. Then I went into the questioning room by myself, where he asked me about myself, my name, what do I do. And then he started going deeper into questions about my college education, where I work, who's waiting for me outside. And I really felt that the questions were out of context of what his job is, to the point, at one point, he said, who's waiting for you outside? And I was getting agitated. I said, my mother, and he asked me for her name. So I said, go look it up yourself. Then he went on, he understood that I'm agitated at this point, and the questions went further. Who did you meet? And I said, I met some elected officials in Turkey because I'm really impressed of how they take care of their communities. And we went on. Then he asked, well, are you aware of any terrorist cells of any of the cities in Turkey? And I said, no. And I felt that the question was weird. And then he asked directly, did you meet any terrorists in Turkey? And that's when I said no. And I said, I need to be speaking to my lawyer right now. And we ended the conversation there.
So, Mohamed, the agents claimed that you had been randomly selected for search and questioning. Do you believe that this was indeed random?
There was absolutely nothing random about this. As I stated, we were in the back of the plane. That means we were one of the last people to leave. And this is when these two agents decided that we were the ones to be selected randomly, one of the last people to leave the plane. Moving 1 month ahead, when we were trying to leave the U.S. to Turkey, we missed our flights on July 3rd because there were a lot of questions by TSA to the ticket agent that caused us to miss our flight. The next day, we were between the counter and an inspection point. We stayed for about 5 hours, where we had the highest level of inspection, including my 14-month infant. He had 4 S's on his boarding pass, which indicate the highest level of search. After we passed that point, we got to the gate. There were TSA agents at the gate who inspected us again as we entered the pathway between the gate and the airplane. The harassment started when we were about to leave the U.S., and it continued as we entered the U.S.
Mohamed, I just want to ask you one quick question before. I just want to ask you one quick question. We have to, because I want to highlight just the bigger issue here. I lived in Istanbul for a number of years, and I myself, as an American, I also received the Quad S on my boarding pass, was subject to those extra screenings. A lot of journalists I know, because of the countries that they've traveled to, if a country is flagged in the system for being a high-risk country, you can also get that. I had that actually on my boarding pass for a couple of years and was subject to extra scrutiny, not to the degree which you describe. I will say that. But how do you, as an elected public official, how do you distinguish profiling versus national security?
Well, I think in this case, the fact that their story isn't consistent tells you that this is a case of profiling. Between while we're walking to the interrogation room, he said this is a random selection. When he was interviewing me, he admitted that DHS told him to interview me. So he was waiting for me. The fact that there were a very extensive search of us twice when we were trying to leave to Turkey, all of this put together indicates that this was not random. This is very targeted for whatever reason. And the sad part is they can't tell a US citizen if he is accused of something. Maybe I could clear my name, but they feel that the Constitution does not exist at the border, which I feel is very wrong.
You're absolutely right. You highlight an issue. It's really difficult for a lot of people when they do end up on this list to go through a process to clear their names, and that is certainly a problem is it created for me and myself, not taking away from your experience at all. But Mohamed Khairullah, we appreciate you coming on and telling your story and highlighting this issue for us. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
The U.S. Department of Justice